Tonight from Paris, the scandal rocking Team Canada. An analyst with the women's soccer team caught spying on another team's practice.
Shocked, disappointed. It raises all kinds of how could you questions.
The Canadian arrested and charged. Another coach sent home too. Now multiple investigations are underway. Where it leaves Canada's defending champions.
Also breaking, the wildfire emergency unfolding in Jasper, Alberta. Wildfire reaches the historic town site as first responders are forced to run. Plus, Joe Biden addresses the nation from the Oval Office.
It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
What he says about finally exiting the race and what will now be his final months as U.S. president.
From CBC News and Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault and Erica Johnson.
We'll get to Adrienne in just a moment, but we are following major breaking news from Alberta, where a wildfire has now reached the historic Jasper town site. The situation is changing rapidly, but we now have confirmation multiple buildings are on fire. Crews are still fighting the flames, but those without breathing apparatuses have been forced to abandon that fight and evacuate, the situation becoming too dangerous. Let's go right to Madeline Cummings, who is outside the park gates tonight. Madeline, take us through what we know about this sudden development.
Well, we know at 8:30 tonight, Parks Canada said the decision was made to send wildland firefighters and people who do not have individual breathing apparatuses out of the park. They have relocated to Hinton. We saw many of their vehicles pass us here on the highway outside the park gate. Meanwhile, we're seeing firefighters, trucks, structural firefighters coming from many different towns nearby and far. They are arriving, going the opposite direction to go and help with the structural fires that are occurring in Jasper. Just a few minutes ago, I spoke with James Eastham. He is a public information officer for Parks Canada, and he told us about what he was seeing and hearing in Jasper. He was there not too long ago. Here's a little bit about what he had to say.
There are significant amounts of structural firefighters who remain in town and are actively fighting structural fires. There has been structural loss. At this point, I can't confirm how many locations or specific structures. The fire continues to burn. It is a very dynamic situation, and we will provide further updates when we are able to.
James Eastham told us that some of the firefighters in the park observed flames 400 feet high, 300 to 400 feet high. So that gives you a sense of the devastation that's going on in Jasper right now. As you can see, it is dark here. There is a lot of smoke. Ash has been falling on my clothing. I've been wiping the screen of my phone constantly just to keep the flakes away. A devastating night tonight in Jasper. We know there are structural losses, but we just don't yet know how many.
Madeline, flames 300 to 400 feet high. What is being done to try to keep those flames from advancing further?
Well, we know that the South Fire has already reached the town, so they are focused on trying to fight those structural fires. But we heard also that the North Fire, which was 5 kilometers away earlier today, that has moved closer. The Parks Canada folks told us that a variety of methods were tried today. Some of them, though, not successful just due to the conditions. It's been very windy, and they were expecting more rain tomorrow, but now that forecast is not so optimistic. They're only expecting trace amounts of rain overnight and tomorrow. So that will make for challenging conditions for those firefighters who are still in the park.
Thanks for this, Madeline. Madeline Cummings just outside the Jasper Park gates in Hinton, Alberta. Earlier, I spoke to Jasper Mayor Richard Ireland, who is currently staying near Crossfield, Alberta. I began by asking him about the latest information he has on what's happening in his town.
Well, unfortunately, Erica, I can't give you full details because I don't have those either. I was on a briefing call with people on the ground in Jasper when the word came that was just in your earlier report, that those without breathing apparatus had to leave, and that included the people who were providing the briefing. I can say that we have been apprised that there are multiple structures burning in the community. It appears that the damage will be extensive, but I don't have details beyond that. As you indicated earlier as well, there are additional structural fire protection units coming to town, and they have some heavy equipment, but whether that can be utilized to any effect at this state remains to be known. So if this is simply absolutely our community's worst nightmare, residents watching from afar, far beyond nervousness, I think like all residents, I feel essentially devastated, shattered, and absolutely helpless in the face of nature, which is just so powerful.
And we just heard from a resident who has been evacuated. What would you like to tell those who left town about what could await them?
Well, I certainly want to prepare them for significant loss. But, you know, I wanted to temper that with a bit of a message of optimism. Our community has been through hardships, nothing quite like this before, and we have been resilient, and I'm expecting that will surface again. And if there is any silver lining in all of this, it is the evacuation order that was issued Monday night in a bit of a rush, some people thought, but now in retrospect, it was so important that that notice got out when it did. It was so important that our residents were prepared and so responsive, because the reality is that everyone got out safely. And from my perspective, yes, losing structures in the community is like losing a close friend. We are so used to the character of our community, but the people are the heartbeat of every community, and the people have been saved, and that is significant. We can find a way to rebuild. We can find each other to hug again. I'm sorry, because we all got out.
Yes, that's certainly something to feel very optimistic about in these very difficult times. You spoke with a colleague earlier today and said, today is the worst day of your life. How are you and your community holding up?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. It has been such a trying time. You know, the last 48 hours have been such an upheaval for everyone. And people were thinking, of course, that the evacuation and wondering whether and when they might return to their homes was as bad as it was going to get. But of course, now it's turned a corner, and it's perhaps worse than anybody imagined. So for people to come to grips with this is going to be extremely difficult. There are so many people that have had long, fulfilling lives in our community, and they may come home to find homes gone. They may come home to find businesses gone, lives in total upheaval. So I can't speak for all, of course, but I think it's going to be widespread but shared heartbreak. It's such a tremendous shock to the system. I'm sure some are still reeling from it. But as one of your earlier guests said, one of our residents, it is a chance to rebuild and renew.
Now, we know late this afternoon, the Alberta provincial government called on the federal government for assistance. In the coming days, what kind of assistance will you be needing?
Until we know the extent of the devastation, I can't answer that. The people on the ground, I think, throughout the entire course of the fire, have not necessarily wanted for resources. They were just up against a really powerful fire that showed tremendously aggressive behavior. And it wasn't necessarily for lack of resources. They were simply unable to do much in the face of that onslaught. And it may be the same in the community right now. As I say, I'm told that there are additional structural fire protection units still coming into our community this evening, and there is heavy equipment that might be used to take down some structures to save other portions of the town. But whether any of that will be ultimately effective in the face of this particular wildfire simply remains to be seen. It's one more of the unknowns that is so troubling to our residents.
That was Jasper Mayor Richard Ireland tonight. We are also hearing from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. She shared this video on social media tonight.
Thoughts are with the people who have evacuated and are watching this as well, and also those who are still in the community. Make sure if you can leave, please leave safely. Take care of yourself. Also to the emergency responders and firefighters, where we wish you all the luck in fighting this fire and keeping safe as well.
Smith goes on to say she's been in constant contact with provincial teams and her federal counterparts and vows to do everything to put the fires out. We will stay on this breaking news and bring you updates as they come in. Now it's over to Adrienne in Paris.
With just 2 days until the opening ceremony, Team Canada is embroiled in a controversy tonight, grappling with the fallout after an analyst with the women's soccer team was caught spying on an opposing team with a drone. Joseph Lombardi, a member of the team's coaching staff, was sent home by Team Canada today after he was arrested Monday by French authorities. They say he admitted to twice flying a drone over New Zealand's practices to learn their tactics. Another coach was also sent home. Tonight, Sarah Levitt brings us up to speed on the controversy, what we know about who was involved, and the consequences so far.
They're the reigning gold medalists, here to defend that title. But Canada's women's soccer team will now do that under a cloud of scandal.
Well, we discovered a fair bit in the course of a very short period of time.
A member of the team's coaching squad, analyst Joseph Lombardi, arrested, charged, and sent home after admitting to flying a drone over New Zealand's training sessions to learn their tactics.
Shocked, disappointed, but I throw a few other emotions in there too. Frustrated, questioning. It raises all kinds of how could you questions.
Also sent home assistant coach Jasmine Mander, who was in charge of Lombardi but says she was unaware. Head coach Bev Priestman says she's still learning the details of what happened, but has removed herself from tomorrow's opening game.
Ultimately, I am accountable. That's why it was really important to me, I think, to take this moment to show strong leadership.
Canada Soccer, the International Olympic Committee, and FIFA say they're investigating. For the New Zealand team, this is a distraction.
We're controlling what we can control, and overwhelming sort of feeling of disappointment, and I know the players are feeling the same.
The question for many is, why did this happen? According to FIFA, Canada is currently ranked 8th in the world, New Zealand 28th.
It's a little bit of a mystery, isn't it? Because
Maya Jackman is retired, considered one of New Zealand's all-time greatest female footballers. She knows Priestman well.
I would not think that this was something she would condone or be a part of. She's a great coach, and she can coach without having to cheat.
For the players, concentrating on the game is all that matters.
We've worked really hard to get here as a group of players. Just been looking forward to this moment for so long.
As the team tried to do just that at practice today, assistant coach Jasmine Mander was walking off the field, a solitary walk, before being driven off.
So, Sarah, one of the big questions still hanging over the Canadian team is who else other than Lombardi knew what was happening here?
What we've been told, it's limited to him, but investigations are ongoing. FIFA says its investigation is starting in the coming days. It'll focus on head coach Bev Priestman, Lombardi, as well as assistant coach Jasmine Mander. As for that Canada Soccer review, it'll be done by an independent party.
Okay, lots more to come. Sarah Levitt, thank you. Looking forward to your reporting during the Olympics. Now, all of this is happening as the Canadian women's team gets set to face New Zealand Thursday at this stadium in St. Etienne. Thomas Daigle now with how this controversy is playing out at home in Canada.
Different team, different tournament. But back in 2021, as the Honduran men's squad came to Toronto for a World Cup qualifying match, They reportedly spotted a drone flying overhead during their training and suspected Canada of spying. The response from Canada's then coach aired on Honduran media.
A lot of people in Canada that fly drones, I'm sure. And when a big team like Honduras turn up, I'm sure people are probably interested in what they're doing.
Now, Canada Soccer says an independent external review will look into the drone incidents in France, plus what it calls its historical culture of competitive ethics.
Canada Soccer is a little bit of a laughingstock right now in the global community of soccer, of how could this happen and was this necessary?
Federal Sport Minister Carla Qualtrough says the actions of those involved do not reflect Canada's values. Fans online said they were disgusted, calling the fiasco not a good look. And what an embarrassment.
It now maybe raises some questions over, well, did Canada do anything like this in winning those medals?
Remember, winning gold in Japan capped off a string of 3 Summer Olympics where Canada's women's team made the podium. Head coach Bev Priestman led them to the top then. Many wonder about her future now.
Did she know about this? And unfortunately, if she did, I feel like maybe she should be sent home.
In recent years, Canada Soccer has found itself at the center of multiple controversies surrounding leadership, pay equity, and broadcast rights. This latest fiasco comes as the National Federation has been trying to turn a corner and leave the drama behind. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
So as all of this unfolds, competition is now underway here in Paris, and it was a chaotic start for men's soccer, with angry fans invading the pitch at the Morocco-Argentina game. It was that goal by Argentina which would have tied the game 2-2. That sent Moroccan fans running onto the pitch, causing a nearly 2-hour delay before the game was finally finished. The goal ended up being disallowed. Morocco won 2-1. We'll have more from Paris in just a few minutes. First, though, it's over to Erica in Vancouver with some developing news.
Thanks, Adrienne. Returning to our breaking news tonight, multiple structural fires are reported tonight inside the historic town site of Jasper, Alberta, after officials said the South Fire had pushed into the community. More special coverage ahead on The National. We're back in 2. We are following breaking news tonight. A wildfire has now burned into the town of Jasper, Alberta, after people fled there just 2 days ago. Officials now say they are battling multiple structural fires and trying to protect critical infrastructure. Just hours ago, that fire, called the South Fire, was several kilometers away, but it was driven in by strong winds. We will have more breaking news coverage in a moment. But first, we want to turn to other developing news, starting in Washington, where Joe Biden delivered an Oval Office address this evening. Biden laid out his reasons for abruptly quitting the presidential race and endorsing his vice president to replace him.
I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
Paul Hunter has been listening closely to that speech. Paul, another remarkable moment in a campaign full of them.
Hey, Erica. Yeah, this was history. The President of the United States telling Americans from the Oval Office he's done, that he's giving up the job when his term ends in January, and doing so willingly instead of trying to hang on and run again. It's not news in the sense that he announced it Sunday, but it's a remarkable thing to hear him describe his own thinking on it, under pressure from those insisting he's too old and all the predictions that he'd lose the election if he stayed in it, the election he himself had framed as crucial for U.S. democracy. In the end, as Biden explained it tonight, he heard those asking him to go as that election looms. In short, he said, it's country over self. Here's a clip.
In recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition.
And then there's the age thing, the irreversible thing that's lately led every conversation in this country, as so many put it, on whether Joe should go. A factor Biden had, at least publicly, denied until tonight.
In public life, there's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
Younger voices, the only hint on that tonight from Biden, but a powerful acknowledgement.
And by younger, Paul, he is clearly talking about Kamala Harris.
Yeah, he sure is. And she's already out campaigning in Indianapolis today, for example, experiencing again this remarkable boost in enthusiasm by Democrats in the short time since Biden first announced he was pulling back. So much enthusiasm that Donald Trump is talking about her, too. At a rally tonight in North Carolina, he brought her up a lot. Here's some of Trump.
You've done a terrible job. You've been terrible at everything you've done. You're ultra-liberal, and we don't want you here. We don't want you anywhere. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired.
Yet another indicator, Erica, the race ahead promises to be brutal.
Thanks for this, Paul. Paul Hunter in Washington. The Bank of Canada has cut its key interest rate again, and the central bank says it is reasonable to assume there could be more cuts on the horizon. Paulette Duhacek now on what's behind today's decision and the immediate impact on your wallet.
That is the most important thing.
Amy Grimble wants to buy a house in her neighborhood. After years of renting, she thinks she might finally be able to afford it.
Through COVID, with inflation and grocery prices and everything, there was just no opportunity for us to really save. But, you know, obviously with the recent interest rate changes, there's been a little bit more hope.
That hope as the Bank of Canada cut its key interest rate by 25 basis points to 4.5%, its second consecutive cut, this one coming after June inflation dipped to 2.7%.
Broad-based price pressures are easing, and we are increasingly confident that the ingredients are now in place to bring inflation back to the 2% target.
The bank is confident it can now lower interest rates without driving inflation back up, potentially bringing some relief for Canadians.
They'll have more money in their pocket because the bank, again, reducing rates reduces your interest on your credit cards and it reduces interest on variable mortgages.
Still, with this latest rate cut, a new question emerges.
Okay, so you want to know where interest rates are going?
The The bank says it still has to keep an eye on inflation, including the impact of housing costs, both rent and mortgages. But if all goes according to plan,
It is reasonable to expect further cuts in our policy rate.
that decision set to come in just over 1 month. As for Grimble, she's starting to look at listings, though she worries she may not be the only one.
Once the rates do go down, sellers will kind of raise their prices just a little bit more.
A common concern in the midst of a housing affordability crisis, but still too soon to tell. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Toronto.
Returning to our breaking news tonight, multiple structural fires are reported tonight inside the town of Jasper, Alberta, after officials said the South Fire had pushed into the community. People were ordered out of the town 2 days after, with multiple fires threatening it. We'll have more throughout this hour. Stay with us. We are following breaking news out of Jasper, Alberta tonight. Multiple buildings are on fire there. One of the wildfires threatening the community has now pushed into town, driven there by high winds. Wildland firefighters and anyone else without a self-contained breathing apparatus have now been pulled out. Structural firefighters remain there and are still fighting to protect critical infrastructure. Let's go back to Madeline Cummings, who is outside the park gates. Madeline, take us through the latest updates. It is raining there where you are. Is that good news?
It is raining where I am. It's coming down quite hard now, but what we don't know is whether it is raining inside the park. The latest we heard from Parks Canada was more than an hour ago that it was not yet raining and they were not expecting as much rain as they hoped for. So that's the latest in terms of the weather. In terms of what's going on inside the town, we know the wildfire reached the town earlier, and Parks Canada just said in a statement that This has been an exceptionally difficult day for Jasper. There are significant losses in town. We just don't know yet how many. We know Moline Lodge, a hotel on one of the main streets in Jasper, was engulfed in flames earlier tonight. We know the fire has reached the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge grounds, but we don't know yet whether that resort has seen any losses because of the fire. I spoke with a public information officer from Parks Canada earlier tonight. He told me that firefighters observed flames 300 to 400 feet tall. We know that many wildland firefighters have been sent out of Jasper for their own safety, and also people who don't have personal breathing apparatuses, along with first responders, they have been told to get out. And Parks Canada has been urging people, any remaining residents, to leave the town now for their own safety. Significant resources are coming into Jasper to help with the structural firefighting. We're hearing of crews coming from as far as Wainwright, Irma, St. Albert. We have seen trucks driving past us on this highway, going into the park, ready to lend a hand to help protect as many of the buildings in the town as possible. Town of 5,000 people, all of these evacuees nervous tonight, just waiting to hear what may have happened to their homes.
Thanks for this update. Madeline Cummings, just outside the Jasper Park gates in Hinton, Alberta. Let's go to Calgary now, where Acton Clarkin is at an evacuation centre speaking to Jasper residents who had to flee. Acton, what are you hearing tonight?
Well, the reception center here is now shut down. The parking lot has been cleared of people. It was actually scheduled to run until 5 p.m. local time, which is a little over 5 hours ago here in Calgary. But workers were still accepting people for 4.5 hours afterwards as people kept trickling in, desperate from their long, circuitous journeys through BC. From Jasper into BC, a lot of people went down to Kamloops and then over east to southern Alberta to Calgary to come here and find that this center was about to close. But people are here to get hotels. But the mood is one of extreme tiredness, but also a lot of uncertainty. People are hearing reports of maybe their homes or businesses being threatened by the flames, but no one really, some of the people don't really know for sure, including this man who had uncertainty on his mind. We've got a clip.
Now I don't have anything. I don't know what I must do now. I don't have any plans about that because my clothes, my items burn in the fire. I have only my backpack and one bag. That's all.
That's just one man. I spoke with a family of 4. One of the women was pregnant. They said they slept in their car last night, just showing the things that people are trying to do to get by here when they reach Calgary on the ground. But there are some people, including one man who I spoke to who was traveling with 2 cats, a dog, and a parrot in a van with 2 others. It's really crowded. He was worried about his home being engulfed by the flames, and I spoke with him earlier as well.
We've seen pictures from people that, like, I pretty much know that my house is burned. Like, that's it's not going to be anything to go back to. So, I mean, everything that's really important is here. Like, everything that can't be replaced is here. The people are here. So, I mean, can't really do anything about what's happening other than, you know, try to be grateful that we made it out.
And I do want to mention that the workers inside the center are still here. They tell me they've been working all day, and it seems like maybe the tiredness is hitting them as well. And just as I'm speaking, you might be able to see behind me, another carload of people has shown up. They're going to try to get through those doors. And a man told me that a bus from Canmore that his wife's coworker is on is also on the way to this reception center. It's still unclear what's going to happen when they get here because, as I mentioned, the doors have been closed and people are being turned away. But it's something to watch. Maybe they'll have to try again in the morning.
People desperate for shelter. Thanks for this, Acton. Acton Clarkin in Calgary tonight. Earlier tonight, I spoke with Joe Urey. He runs a tour company in Jasper, but recently was evacuated. I asked him about what he has gone through so far.
Yeah, it was a couple of nights ago, Erica, when the call came for everybody to evacuate, and we were all mostly sent west to British Columbia, Valemount. It was a long line of traffic. I was because I have a tour company, I have multiple seats, and so I was working with the municipality and with Parks Canada to assist in getting people out of town that didn't have any wheels. I also have been escorting an elderly couple, 94 and 92 years old, Hans Schwartz, who's a legend in the mountain community. And I'm here in Prince George now, just getting them on a plane to Edmonton, where they'll be taken care of by their daughter-in-law.
So, Joe, you have been driving around picking up stranded people in your tour bus. You just mentioned an elderly couple. What are they telling you about what they're experiencing right now?
Well, there were just the three of us locals. So, we've been living with the threat of fire for a long time. And of course, everyone across Canada has been living with the threat of fire. I did have some internationals, and this was something that they'd never experienced. Certainly, some of them probably saw things like this on their news. Last year, Canada made international news for the fire season that we had. But they were very expedient with regards to them falling in step to getting out. There were local people who were maybe a little bit more reluctant, thinking they could weather this through. But as you said, there's now multiple structures that are on fire. There's one of the lodges, less than a block from my house is torched. So I suspect my house is also on fire.
Oh, that must be hard to see those pictures that are coming in. We've mentioned you run a tour company in Jasper, so that town is near and dear to your heart. We know the fire has reached the town. What do you know about what's happening there now?
The fire did reach the town. Our understanding was this morning the fire was something between 6 and 8 kilometers away, but this thing has been moving extremely fast. Over the last 2 nights, it probably moved, and to hit the perimeter of the town, it probably moved somewhere close to 40 kilometers in a matter of a couple of days. It has reached the town. Structures are burning, and I think we can expect the worst from it. That being said, it's only the worst because the conditions lined up. The people on the ground there, the personnel who are making their most valiant attempt to stop this in its track, have done everything they possibly could. And I think all Jasperites will look at them in the time when the time comes and shake their hands and hold them dear to us, because they tried hard and they put themselves in the line of fire in doing so.
And you are anticipating the worst, you say, when the time comes when you are allowed to return?
Yeah, I suspect that's what I'm expecting the worst, and I'm also expecting the best. I've been people have been texting me left, right, and center who know me, and I've been there. I got there 35 years ago, and I've been referring to this as the Great Reset. We didn't allow fire to exist for such a long time that we were kind of responsible for these conditions. And Mother Nature, I think, has decided, enough of this, and she's taken charge of Jasper National Park. When this all comes to pass, I know it's hard for everybody to hear. We'll get together and we'll put this back. And hopefully we'll put it back in a manner that better respects the idea of this. And hopefully we'll include the Indigenous peoples of the area. I'm a member of the Métis Nation. We'll include the Indigenous peoples of the area who've not been allowed to participate in the economy of Jasper National Park or even be in Jasper National Park for a very long time. So it's both the most sad thing that Jasper has ever experienced and the most beautiful thing at the same time. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the way I feel.
Interesting perspective. And you mentioned this morning the reports where this fire was 8 kilometers away, and yet it has rushed in. It is now inside the town. How surprised were you, and have you spoken to others who may have been caught off guard?
Well, I wasn't surprised at all. So there's a couple different fires. This is the South fire. This is the beast that consuming the town. The East fire, I was there the moment that it kicked up. I was actually on tour with guests from England, and we saw the fire ignite. And I tried actually to put it out unsuccessfully, and it just blew up. I worked fighting forest fires in the 80s, and I know the volatility. I know the speed of it. I know that you know, when Mother Nature wants to go, she goes, and we just either have to get out of the way and turn it over to the professionals, and just hope for the best. Some people, again, they have been reluctant to believe that, and I don't blame them. I mean, who wants to believe that their house is about to go up in flames?
And just to recap that breaking news, wildfire has now engulfed the historic town site of Jasper, Alberta. Multiple buildings are on fire. Officials now say significant loss has occurred. This just days after thousands were forced to evacuate Jasper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. At the end of Joe Biden's long career in politics, what does the president have to say for himself?
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
After giving up his bid for re-election, these first public statements reveal a lot about his legacy, where it all leads the fight between Harris and Trump. So let's dig into that. Tia Mitchell is a Washington correspondent for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and she's in Washington. Tia, there wasn't much of an explanation about how he came to his decision not to run again. Was that what people were hoping to hear, do you think?
I think not necessarily, because people know why he decided not to run again. It's been talked about for weeks, ever since his disastrous debate performance. People knew that there was this mounting pressure campaign from fellow Democrats, especially as the polling started to look worse and worse for President Biden. So I think people knew why. But what they did want to hear is reassurance that he was at peace and reassurance that this was his decision that he made and that he wasn't forced out or some of the other narratives that I think some of his detractors tried to paint around his decision.
And that is certainly what he said this evening. Several times he talked about the importance of democracy, saying, history is in your hands. I revere this office, but I love this country more. How do you think that will play with voters?
I think it's going to play well. I mean, I think that his decision has already played well. You hear people saying, you know, he's a patriot. He's someone who has been selfless. He's someone who will go down in history, not just as a consequential president, but as a president who, when it mattered, put what he thought was the best thing for the country above his own personal ambition. And so I think those are a lot of the things that he reinforced, quite frankly, in this speech. And he continued to talk about the fact that he made this decision because he thought it was what was best for the country. But then he also put it on the people viewing at home to say, now I need you to make a decision that I think is best for this country. And what was implied in that was to say, don't let former President Donald Trump come to the White House.
Biden is now what's called a lame duck president. What did he signal about what he intends to do in the remainder of his time in office? He has many more months to go.
Yeah, he actually outlined an ambitious kind of vision for his final months in office, everything from voting reform to further lowering the cost of prescription drugs to wanting to impact some of the foreign conflicts that the U.S. is involved in, such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, helping to bring that to an end, Israel's war with Hamas, wanting to bring that to an end and freeing the hostages held by Hamas. He talked a lot about what he would like to do. Now, some of this will be difficult because he has to work with Congress to accomplish a lot of these things. But other things might not be as difficult. For example, the cancer moonshot, which is something that he and First Lady Jill Biden have been working on. But that's something that could possibly get bipartisan support and quite frankly, could build on the goodwill that a lot of members of Congress who've known Joe Biden for years, especially in the Senate, might want to give him something to build a legacy on. So he outlined a lot of things he would like to do.
All right, and what's the thinking around what role he might play in Kamala Harris's campaign? He has said he's going to be working like hell to help get her elected.
Yeah, I think, number one, it was important for him to pass the torch in a way that tells the people who supported him, the people who were disappointed that he bowed out, that it was, again, his decision to make. He stands behind it, but that he also stands fully behind Kamala Harris to make that seamless transition. And I think it'll be important for him to continue to do that. You know, there may be some donors and some longtime Democrats that want to hear from President Biden on that and on the issues of democracy.
All right, Tia, I've got to stop there. Thanks so much. Good to get your input today.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, Biden is scheduled to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu on the heels of the Israeli leader's address today to U.S. Congress. As Chris Reyes shows us, his message was met with cheers by some and protest by others.
Inside the U.S. Capitol and outside, two very different scenes highlighting deep divisions over the war in Gaza. From Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, an impassioned plea to Congress for support.
Remember this, our enemies are your enemies. Our fight is your fight, and our victory will be your victory.
But on the streets, tensions flared. Police using pepper spray and making arrests in a crowd of protesters. The scene at times chaotic. A fight between demonstrators on different sides, flag burning and vandalizing of monuments. But there were also those marching peacefully with a simple message for Netanyahu: end the war.
Stop the killing. It's not a political statement.
I want to be part of a historic movement
to stop the genocide.
Netanyahu addressed the protests head on.
Many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas. For all we know, Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on.
For almost an hour, he spoke in a chamber with empty seats, dozens of Democrats choosing to skip the speech. Netanyahu defended his government's handling of the war and laid out his hopes for what happens when it's over.
My vision for that day is of a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. We must retain overriding security control there to prevent the resurgence of terror.
But repeatedly, he came back to accusations against Iran.
In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends.
Netanyahu now takes the message directly to President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Republican nominee Donald Trump in meetings later this week. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
The Stanley Cup arrives in 6 nations. The homecoming celebration is our moment. Florida Panthers defenseman Brandon Montour there hosting the Stanley Cup last month after that intense 7-game series against Edmonton. Well, he got to do it again after he brought the cup back to his community at Six Nations of the Grand River. Tonight, this hometown hero makes our moment.
I grew up obviously idolizing, players, not just hockey but lacrosse, and I think when you have one of your own or somebody that's close to you, even if you don't know me, reach this level, and especially like a day today, it's just a bonus for any kid growing up. Today is obviously about me and what I've done, but today is about everyone else to share that with, and I'm excited about that.
It's cool because he won the Stanley Cup, and it's really hard to win.
Excited because I really like Brandon Montour. He's like probably my favorite defenseman.
I was a big Red Wings fan, and they always had really good teams. They won a number of championships, obviously, and those are my idols. And ever since I became a fan, to be honest, that's kind of what my goal was and what I wanted to strive for. And grateful that I'm in this position. I'm very grateful and obviously honored to kind of be in the position I'm in, and obviously to win at this level, you can't beat it.
Just savoring that win with the Florida Panthers, and he's played for a couple of other NHL teams, the Anaheim Ducks, the Buffalo Sabres. This weekend, he and his wife are headed to Seattle because he has signed a 7-year, $50 million contract with the Seattle Kraken. Thanks for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Erica Johnson. Take care.